Confederate flag be moved off state grounds. The state legislature did agree overwhelmingly to take up the debate, but when? And what's going to happen in as many as 6 other states with suspect flags? Let's get to Allison. Allison.
So, Chris and Michaela, I am here in front of the state capitol. And when you're here in Columbia, boy, you can really see this issue in stark relief, because that is the Confederate flag right over my shoulder. It may be hard to see it because it's not windy this morning, but it stands right in front of the state capitol every single day. It's behind the Confederate War Memorial. And so it's that position, it's that place of prominence that, of course, has caused so much debate and contention here over the past week. And CNN's Ana Cabrera has been here for days following all of the political shifting sands and the difference in attitude in just a few days. Tell us what you've seen.
Well, what we're really seeing is a movement, right, regarding racism in this country. And that's what this flag controversy really is about to so many who believe that the flag represents a racist mentality that's rooted in history. But as you pointed out, the flag still stands in front of the state capitol today. So this fight is not over yet.
Take it down!
Hundreds of protesters demanding the Confederate flag be removed Tuesday in the wake of the vicious murders at the Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston.
Our ancestors were literally fighting to continue to keep human beings as slaves.
Inside, South Carolina lawmakers overwhelmingly voting to allow debate on a bill to do just that.
Mr. Bennett, aye.
All except 10 lawmakers digging in their heels, voting against it, and 10 who did not vote.
I think that the misuse and the miseducation of the flag has probably pushed it to this point.
State Representative William Chumley says we shouldn't let hate groups dictate how we feel.
We're focusing on the wrong thing here. We need to be focusing on the 9 families.
Confederate flag images, still prominent in a few states across the country, may soon be no more.
People are using this flag as a symbol of hatred.
In Mississippi, where the Confederate battle flag is a part of the official state flag, the Speaker of Mississippi's State House is calling for it to be removed. Georgia now weighing a redesign of state-sponsored Sons of Confederate Veterans license plates featuring the flag. But governors in Tennessee, North Carolina, and Virginia are already saying they'll support pulling the plates from production entirely.
Today I'm calling for actions to be taken from the removal of the Confederate flag.
This as eBay, Amazon, and Walmart, among other big-name retailers, are banning the flag from their shelves.
We just don't want to sell products that makes anyone feel uncomfortable, and we felt like that was the case. This was the right thing to do.
Okay, so you and I'll just talk.
Now, at this point, it's still unclear exactly when the state legislature is going to take up the legislation regarding removing the flag. We did talk with one Republican representative who introduced a version of this bill, and he tells us that they're likely to focus on it after 4th of July. But today, Allison, it's really all about the victims. One of the 9 killed, as you know, was State Senator Clementa Pinckney, and today he's going to lie in state inside the Capitol Rotunda. At this point, though, it's unknown whether the flag will still be flying during that time.
Right. Thank you so much, Anna. So today is a pivotal day here, and obviously it will be a very intense day here emotionally as well. So all morning we will be talking to South Carolinians about how they feel about these issues, and we'll be bringing that to you. Let's go back to New York. Chris and Michaela.
All right, we'll be watching for it. We also want to let you know this morning there's new information. Now, police have told us that the Charleston terrorist was arrested without incident, but now we're getting a first look at the pursuit and 911 calls that led police to nab the confessed mass killer. CNN's Alina Machado has the very latest on that in Charleston. What do we know?
Well, Chris, when you look at the video, you get a sense of just how calm Dylan Roof was just hours after he walked into this church and shot and killed 9 people.
Confirmed it is a suspect from the Charleston shooting.
Newly released footage from police dash cams along with 911 dispatch calls give a fuller picture of the moments leading up to the capture of accused South Carolina mass killer Dylan Roof.
Black Hyundai white male traveling westbound.
Police were on the lookout for Roof after the killing of 9 people inside an historic African-American church last Wednesday. The next day, an officer in North Carolina, some 250 miles away, received a tip from a woman driving to work, saying she spotted Roof partly because of his hair. The officer then called 911.
I know it's strange, but I just got a call on my personal cell phone. A lady called a friend of mine and said that she was behind a car matching the description of the Charleston killer. That had a South Carolina tag on it, white male, early 20s, with a bowl haircut.
The dashcam video shows police closing in, ending the 14-hour manhunt. You can see the moment police order Roof to step out of the vehicle, placing his hands on the top of the car. Roof is checked for weapons, but none were found on his body. However, according to the arresting officer, a search of the car revealed Roof was traveling with a Glock semi-automatic handgun in the back seat. Now, officers found that gun underneath a pillow in the back seat, suggesting perhaps that Roof had spent the night in his car following the shooting. Meanwhile, a federal law enforcement source tells CNN that Roof purchased that weapon at a gun store in West Columbia, South Carolina, not far from where he lived. Allison?
Okay, Alina, thanks so much for all of that background. We want to bring in now Bakari Sellers. He's a CNN contributor and former South Carolina state representative. We want to talk all about what's happening here today. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So when is this flag going to come down?
Well, that's a good question. I think I'm cautiously optimistic about it coming down. There still has to be a vote, but hopefully...
But that's the way you think it's going, because there is still obviously resistance, and some in the General Assembly say that they will fight it, but you believe that ultimately this flag is coming down.
I think that's the goal. I think that's the way that South Carolina is moving. I think that's the way the world is moving. I had a conversation with a few legislators yesterday, and we determined that there are 2 pages in history, the right side and the wrong side. And I think many legislators want to be on the right side of history. We still have a few outliers, even some in my generation. But I do look forward to South Carolina moving into the 21st century.
Today, State Senator Clementa Pinckney will lie in state here. Should Governor Nikki Haley do something, she has it within her power today to take, just temporarily, to take this flag that's over our shoulder down, just because there's a loophole in the law
there's a little
that
gap.
says it can come down for wear and tear. Is that what's going to happen?
You actually caught me off a little bit, because I hope that she perverts the law for only one moment. I hope that while myself and a few others are escorting our friend's body into the rotunda today at 1 o'clock, that flag is not there. It's very difficult for many of us when he lies in state 30 yards away from the Confederate flag. So that's my hope. Will she do it? I don't have any insight to that. That's my prayer.
If ultimately this flag is removed permanently from the State House grounds and goes to a museum, what does that change? How does that change racism in this country?
Well, it doesn't necessarily change racism, but what it does do is begin the discussion. Many people in South Carolina, many people throughout the South, whether or not it's here or Mississippi, we've been echoing that chant that we want to have this debate. We want to have this discussion. In South Carolina, we want to have a discussion about economics. We want to pivot and talk about economics. We want to pivot and talk about the fact that we have a court of shame where children of color go to school where their heating and air don't work, where their infrastructure is falling apart. I literally had a school in my district where the cafeteria roof fell down. And these are things that we want to talk about. These are opportunities that we now have. And I think with that flag coming down, we can begin the discussion.
You know, I just went over and I read the inscription on that Confederate War Memorial. And this is about people's ancestors. They bravely fought for what they believed in at the time. History, you know, has 20/20 hindsight. But at that time, they believed in what they were doing. What do you say to people who say this is about the pride of my ancestors?
Well, I respect that. You have to have respect for that, especially growing up in the South. However, I can also tell you that my father was shot 60 miles away from here in Orangeburg, South Carolina, in what's known as the Orangeburg Massacre, where 27 other students were wounded and 3 were killed. I can also tell you that I understand the history of Jimmy Lee Jackson, of the 16th Street bombing. I can tell you about those 9 people who died just on Wednesday. So yes, while it speaks for history for some, for many of us, those wounds are very real. Those wounds are very deep. And my father's 70 years old, and when it comes down, hopefully, maybe he can have a little peace.
The car is